This episode may contain stories of domestic violence. Please be advised. Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, where each week we sit down with people just like you who have left abusive relationships and found healing. Don't forget to check out our website, sage.community, because together we can survive abuse with grace and empathy. Now sit back and get comfortable. The Sage Advice Podcast starts right now. Hey everyone, welcome to this special, very exciting episode of the Sage Advice Podcast. Honestly, I'm still in a little bit of shock that our guest today said yes to coming on the show. But I shouldn't be too surprised because she is a big proponent of supporting other women. And she's here today to talk to us about her own experiences with abusive relationships and to give us some advice on how to go from surviving to thriving. So if you've been following along to the social media clues, you should have a pretty good idea of who our guest is. For those of you who haven't, please help me welcome CEO of the Macbeth Collection, author of the new book, Caviar Dreams, Tuna Fish Budget, and Real Housewife of New Jersey, my favorite, Margaret Josephs.
I am so very excited today because my favorite housewife, the Marge, is here. And just thank you so much for being here, Marge.
Oh, Erin, I'm so honored to be on. Thank you so much. You have such a great podcast that's so helpful to so many. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. And I want to start by asking you what I ask everybody who comes on is why decide to come and tell your story? I know you've written a book and there's a lot of stories in there, but why come on and share your story? And also, why have you decided to become a champion for other people in this type of situation?
Well, I think everybody knows me, first of all, from Housewives as a public figure there. And they're like, you're such a strong woman and you always stand up for yourself. Well, I think so many women who are perceived as strong women, everything else, it can happen to us as well. We can be in abusive situations. We can be sexually harassed. And I think it's so important to come forward and talk about those situations because people have shame with them. And that was important for me to put it in my book and discuss it and to have a podcast like yours so women don't feel alone and that they don't have shame from it and that they can come forward and have someone to relate to talk to. And that's why I think it's important.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do when I created the Sage community. It's, you think you're alone. You don't always have someone to talk to or relate to. And so I really value, everyday people, and to have you come on and be such a strong businesswoman and a strong voice. I think it helps. It helps right away.
Yeah, it all helps all of us because we're all in this together.
Absolutely. So I wanted to, for our listeners who are not fans of Housewives, just give a little bit of background about who you are. And so your mom is Marge Sr., which people wouldn't know.
Yes.
I love that you said in your book that it's very European to name your daughter Marge.
Yes.
After yourself.
Yeah, after yourself. It's very Hungarian. There's so many little Marges, little Kathys, little Magdas, all Hungarian women. It's very common to name your daughter after yourself. I mean, in the States, it's common to name your son after the father. But in Europe, there's a lot of mothers and daughters, Eastern European women named after their moms. So yeah, it was just natural. I was going to be little Marge.
And so how old was your mom when she moved to the States with your grandparents?
Yeah, right? My mom was only 10 and a half years old when she left everything she ever had. I went on a bicycle across the border into Austria because communism, I'm so sorry, Bella doesn't like that, feels bad about Marge Sr. parking. So she went across the border into Austria because communism, there was an uprising again in 56. And she was 10 and a half years old when she moved with my grandparents and had to leave her brother behind as well because he was already married. He was older than her. So her brother actually never had left Hungary.
Oh, wow.
One of her brothers. Her other one had unfortunately passed away before she was born. Yes.
Oh, wow. That has to be tough. She is a strong lady, as
Very, very,
we
very
all know.
Yes.
So after you talked a little bit about your dad, and I was wondering, I don't know what Marge has been through. So let me just start reading her book. And right away on page 3, you talk about your dad. And so your mom and your dad met. Were they boyfriend, girlfriend for a long time?
They were, my mother, we're, like I was saying in the book a lot, we're very European, very Hungarian. We're very embedded in the Hungarian culture. My mother had met my father. He was 10 years older than her, also a Hungarian immigrant. And he had a drinking problem, but he was a very sexy guy. And my mother was always attracted to that. But of course, he was abusive in nature because of his drinking problem. And she was just 19 when she met him, 20 when she had me. And it was just a very tumultuous, aggressive relationship. And I give her a lot of credit because she knew, because he was physically abusive to her, and she was a young woman, that she would have to get out of that situation. She wouldn't want me to grow up witnessing anything like that. And I think it was one Easter where he had beaten her up so badly that she couldn't go to my grandparents with me. And she told my grandparents she was sick, and he had taken me to my grandparents for that Easter. And then is when she just started plotting the getaway. Now, of course, her getaway, she was a young girl, not knowing any better. She did it one day while he was at work and moved out all the furniture. So Marcia was just like, all right, she was doing a quick getaway. But after that, Mark Singer was just like dating. And of course, he went absolutely berserk, tried to shoot her. I mean, I say it so matter-of-factly. I say very matter-of-factly because I had read this years later in the divorce papers. I was completely in shock. And she, being the enabler, she just felt sorry for him and didn't press charges and got him out of jail. He was in a local jail, and she went to go visit him and didn't want to press charges and felt sorry for him because obviously he was mentally ill and, just wanted to stay away from him. And I really never had a relationship with him after that.
Yeah, you talked about it. We talk about it a lot, is sometimes it's always the strongest women that but then there is, at the end of the day, a self-esteem issue going on there, and the help complex, savior complex, those types of things play into it, is why you keep coming back and why you actually feel sorry for them, even though they've done all these bad things to you.
Yes, exactly. I think Marge Singer, very, very strong woman, strong enough to leave, but not do the right thing by herself, felt sorry for him and things like that. Meanwhile, he was horrible to her. And I do think a lot of strong women do that, or you think you could fix the person. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't the case. But also I think it was very bad in her self-esteem because he did always put her down, and she made very bad choices for many years along the way.
Yeah. So tell the listeners a little bit about what it was like growing up, because I think that lends to, your success, but also what you learned in relationships later. You described your mom as kind of a sex kitten gone wild.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at it now, at the time, she was a sex. Exactly. It was 1970s. I was her little sidekick. We're only 20 years apart. She was like a little hot mama, sex kitten, wore the short shorts, had the wigs on. But it's really like a college girl having a child, because she was only 20 when she had me. You look now, it's like she was a young woman. What did she possibly know about having a baby and being a single mother in the 70s? It was not common whatsoever. And so she was a party girl, and I was going to be her sidekick. She was a mother, and she had crazy parties all night and people sleeping over, and she was out with single men and married men, and really had no boundaries, because as a child, she was, helping my grandmother clean houses. So she was going to live her best life, and no one was going to stop her. And it was really boundaryless. But I think it caused me to be, as a child, overly responsible and worried, because I was very parentified. And I was always anxious. I didn't want anything to happen to my mother. It was just her and I. I was always the responsible one, while she was always the free spirit. So I think I learned a lot of great things from her, meaning she had an unbelievable work ethic. She was always a hustler, always working very hard for us, always had a great job. But I also learned I don't want to drink. I didn't find it very attractive. I didn't like being out of control. I didn't like what it did to her. I didn't want to witness any behavior like that. So it caused me to be very responsible in any substance, indulging in any substances and things like that. But it's very interesting because I watched her make bad choices with men. I watched her push away the good guys and always be attracted to the bad boys. And I think I always said to myself, I'm going to make better choices. But it also sometimes I think, I was intimidated by men as well for different reasons, which I had written in my book of some abusive things that happened to me when I was a little girl. That my mother wasn't aware of till I read my book.
That's got to be difficult for her. I actually just read that. I read that story earlier. Yeah.
It was hard on her. And I think that shapes you. And I think, we learn as women and humans and men do it as well, but to compartmentalize. If you want to put something out of your head, you can do it because that's we go into survival mode and not deal with it.
Yeah, we talked on another episode about detachment as a coping mechanism where you just basically can view yourself from outside your body and just totally forget that anything ever happened until you're confronted with it, of course, because it always comes back.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I think that's what it was. And I think, when something happens to you as a young girl and it wasn't, I was which you had read in the book, I was at a friend's house and it was a much older boy who had come into my room and, it was a touching situation. It wasn't full blown intercourse or anything like that. But, I felt I was to blame. And, immediately women, even at such a young age, you learn to blame yourself. Did I do something to bring this upon myself? I didn't want to tell anybody because I felt shame from it. And, of course, obviously, it was nothing to do with me. I didn't bring it upon myself. I didn't ask for this. But I didn't want to tell anybody for fear that they would think I did something to bring it upon myself. And I didn't want to tell my mother. And all I wanted to do is forget about it. And truthfully, I went out of my head for years and I never spoke of it again until I really wrote my book because it was just something I had learned to deal with and I didn't know how to handle it, but it did shape certain things that happened to me years later, being sexually harassed by my boss. When a powerful man would, even though I'm such a big mouth and I'm so strong, put me in a position like that, I didn't always know how to handle it until I got older.
What made you decide to share all of that on the show this season?
I think, like I had said, I'm around these women. I'm known to be very strong, tough, opinionated, stick to my guns. But there, this is a side of me. I was very vulnerable and that I wanted to say that with the Me Too movement going on and so many women, so many things have happened. And I think all these women have daughters, have sons. And this is a conversation that needs to be had because it really can happen to anyone. And if we don't have these conversations, it's, it'll keep happening. So I thought it was important because it was going to be in my book. This is something I wanted to discuss with the ladies. And I did. And unfortunately, some of the people, who I'm friendly with didn't understand it. I said I slept my way to the top, slut shamed me, victim shamed me. It was actually quite disturbing and very upsetting. But that is why women don't come forward because of instances like that.
Yeah, I just recorded an episode with her name is Reverend Amelie Wilmer. And she actually became a Anglican priest later in life, but she was on Wall Street in the early 80s. And
yes.
And she said there were some things she saw that she never wished she'd seen. And
believe me, I am sure. And it's just, it's very, very upsetting. Listen, I know even stuff like, even on Wall Street, I know women who they would get paid $5,000 just to taser themselves.
Wow.
Or how much would they would keep upping the price so men would get turned sick, disgusting things, and, just objectified. And it's pretty horrible, but it was so commonplace, the things that would go on in the garment center. It's not like I could have even left my job and went somewhere else because it was happening in the next company. They would have trashed your reputation. So basically you put up and shut up. And I just put it out of my head. And I just did it. And then and then it went away. And that was it. And it was, unfortunate, but for another woman or just anybody not to be empathetic or even understanding to that situation is disturbing at this point in time.
Yeah, I think it's all about education. And a lot of the women that do reach out to me are, in their late 40s, 50s, 60s. And it's just a different culture and learning that it is okay to talk about it and open up without getting, harassed or judged or anything like that.
Hey guys, it's Erin. I know you're all here for the March, but I just wanted to remind you that Wednesdays we have a free intro to meditation class. It's all on Zoom, so you can stay in the comfort of your own home, and you can sign up at sage.community. Now, back to the show.
The one question I really had about your own abusive relationship with your ex-fiance.
Yes.
So I found it interesting that your mom, but not surprising that your mom kind of took his side on things.
Yes, that was very disturbing. My ex-fiance, I don't even, what did I name him in the book? Luca. Yes, I was about to say
the Italian rugby player.
I changed all the names to protect the guilty. Because I swear I was just about to say his real name. It is funny because my mother put up with so much nonsense herself. She thought, you put up with, someone's good to you in general. If they're good, 75% of the time.
Take care of you.
Take care of you, are generous. Margaret, you have a beautiful life. You're traveling to Italy. You're doing this. You can shut up and put up with it. That just wasn't the way I was going to operate. So I was very disappointed that she would take his side. But she always felt sorry, because as soon as I would stand up for myself, she would feel sorry for him because he seemed depressed or this. And that was very upsetting to me because I would never, to my children, or if I ever saw my son be obnoxious and, or rude to his girlfriend, I'm the first one to step in. Or that hurt more than what he did, truthfully. And I mean, she's so different now and so apologetic, but yeah, it's just, but knowing what I knew, later in life and been in therapy, but his behavior was so degrading and so disgusting, but I put up with it for a while. I made excuses. I was like, oh, great life. That's a fight. That's this, but he just said such horrible things, and, I think a lot of women put up with stuff because they stay with men who are philanderers because of the lifestyle. They stayed with men who are abusive because of, oh, he really loves me. He hurt me because he just loves me so much because he's so jealous. He's this. I think women make, and people make so many excuses just to justify and to feel better about themselves. And we have to really work on that.
Yeah. The gaslighting, we did an episode on that too. And I'm glad that it's getting talked about more because the gaslighting coupled with the manipulation, you're kind of in this fog or, this tornado where you don't really know with a clear picture because they're telling you that you're, such a horrible person all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Listen, I've had people say to me, and I love my ex-husband dearly. He's great. And I mean, I think sometimes you say some things when you're very upset or mad. I mean, Joe and I have such a different relationship. I would never say the horrible. I've said horrible things myself in the heat of the moment to my ex-husband, but some of the things I know the real you. Everybody else doesn't know the real you. You're, just horrible things like that. No one really likes you. They like you because you pay them, because they're around you, because, just crazy stuff like that. Of course, they're going to agree with you.
They're your friends. Of course, they're going to agree with you.
If they're your friends, they're going to agree with you. A lot of times, just like Lexi, who's we're so close. She's my best friend, like my sister, just everything. We're together all the time. And I would get a lot of people were jealous because we were so close. And I would get a lot of course, she's going to agree with you, you pay her. She's not going to stick by you, trying to shatter any strength or, relationship I ever had, to weaken me. Very sick shit.
Really to make you question your own intuition.
Yeah, question your own intuition to weaken and isolate you from any strong relationships you have. So you are only dependent on that person because they're insecure psychos.
Yes, they are. I think I've used those words before.
And that's really what it is. But we have to see that because people who really love you and are secure and healthy relationships don't behave that way and don't try to isolate you. And, there's so many different forms of abuse and people don't realize that.
Oh, yeah. And just watching The Housewives, for me, having gone through it and then educated myself and starting this podcast, watching, not necessarily Jersey anymore. There used to be a lot of
yes, I agree.
Questionable husbands on there, but some of the other franchises I just can't watch if there's a man or sometimes even a woman who can be, you can tell is very manipulative and verbally abusive because it's on there.
Listen, I got a lot of backlash because I screamed at Joe. I was very authoritative. But then we got over it. But I was very upset because, Jennifer had immediately said to me, I don't speak to my husband that way. But a lot more will come out about that.
Yeah. And
I don't believe that for 2 seconds. I think it's normal for couples to fight. That's abnormal if you don't fight. And I think when you're not honest about, people fight in general, that's not a big deal. But I think pretending everything's okay and is also not normal.
Well, I think that it's more concerning when people are silent or, somebody's given a look and they stop talking. And, that's happened to me. It's happened to anybody who's in a verbally abusive relationship. It's that, oh no, what's going to set him off? And you better not say that in front of other people. So he's just going to look at you silently. So if you get angry, you're the crazy person on TV.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what it is. It's like I had a fit, I got over it, and Joe and we're no better. And I think as soon as a woman who's strong or expresses any emotion, we're immediately the crazy one.
Yes, absolutely. Man. So you mentioned that you later in life started going to therapy.
Yes.
What drew you to that?
I realized that I had some resentments, that I wasn't as happy as I could be. I had children. I wrote the book. I have a biological son who I'm very, very close with. I didn't want him. I just wanted to do the best job I possibly could with my own children. It's very easy to fuck up your kids, right? Unintentionally. And I thought it was very important for me not to do that. And, there's a lot of things you carry over from your past, and I didn't want to do that. And that's why it was very important for me to go to therapy. I mean, I needed to heal things with my mom, which I obviously had. I'm not going to say things I still don't get triggered. I wanted a healthy relationship. I wanted a healthy marriage. I have a great relationship now with my ex-husband, but there was things from his childhood that carried over, and he was much older than me. So it was very important for me to work on myself and to be a better mother and a better friend and a better wife.
Being European, so we'll keep that going. Was there a stigma around going to therapy at all?
Well, my mother, even though we're very European, we're not that kind of European. I think we're the very liberal European, Mark Singer and I. Not like the old school Italian, don't say anything. We're the much more, not the not uptight kind. And I think there wasn't really a stigma for us. Mark Singer and I are very open and liberal and very free to be me. That's what I always say. It's just like, I was always running around naked or topless, or that drives Joe absolutely crazy. Every time I say, oh my God, don't be so uptight. Don't be so uptight. I'm always very, very naked family. So with the therapy, no, I think I always like to fix things. I mean, I still talk to my same therapist who I absolutely adore, and I don't go as often as I used to, but if something comes up that bothers me, I'm immediately on the hotline. And I think it's important to always work on yourself because we're forever changing. And I always want to tap into that because obviously certain things trigger me or whoever in my life. And I don't want to hurt anybody intentionally, but I think at this certain age, I don't want to put up with any bullshit either.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are still scared of therapy for some reason.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's so fun. It's so great.
I usually cried for the first. Yeah, it is. I cried for the first few and then you start processing things and getting better. Is there something that therapy taught you that was significant for you about how you viewed romantic relationships?
I think, even with my therapist, it was just like, I always felt like I had to be the caretaker. And I think that my therapist was like, no, someone has to take care of you too. And I felt like and that stemmed from my childhood. I was always very much like, I have to fix everything, take care of everything. And I think that she taught me that that's not the way it has to be. You have to take care of each other. And I was very boundaryless. And even when you love somebody, you still have to have boundaries. And I think that helped me with my romantic relationships and I feel like still I have to deal with boundaries because I don't have a ton with it, but it is true. I think people have a hard time setting boundaries. And when you love somebody, everything's just not okay. You still have to have your own identity. And I think setting up boundaries is still important.
Yeah, the boundaries, it's a tough one, especially when you do have that caretaker gene. And
yes.
Not only is that what you want to do, but you're being told by your significant other that you're not good enough at it.
Yes.
And so learning the self-care and setting the boundaries.
Yes. Yeah. And I think we feel guilty if we're, I don't know if it's a woman thing or you're made to feel guilty if you're not constantly doing for somebody or if you do take care of yourself. I had a very common with some of the men I was involved with. I'd be like, I feel like I'm not doing for myself. Oh, you got your hair and nails done. No, that's just regular maintenance.
Right.
Okay, that's just so I don't look like I crawled out of a hole. That's not just doing something for myself. That's not so relaxing. Okay, that's not like me laying on the sofa watching Netflix and getting a massage. That's different. Hair and nails is not enjoyable. I don't care what anyone says.
No, it's a pain in the butt.
It's a pain in the butt. I don't want to sit in the nail salon, getting my nails done. It's just not fun for me. Or getting my hair bleached and pulled and yanked.
Can you hear my dog? He's starting, the mailman's coming now for me. Yeah. Yeah. Well, both our dogs got their voice in there,
yes.
But I do think it's important to talk about the self-care mentally that we do and and those boundary setting is a really big part of that. I talked a little bit about, having to tell my mom she can't just fix everything because it was really, I needed to have control of my life. And so, I just think trying to find little places where you have control over your decisions is the best way to go.
No, absolutely. And I think I still have a hard time setting boundaries with Mark Sr. And we're so close. But, at the end of the day, she is my mother. Though she doesn't think so half the time. She's not one of my friends. And it's just like, I like to include her in certain things, but sometimes I can't. She's my mother. I want to be with my friends or do this or do that. And I don't want to schlep her everywhere. And it's as simple as that. And I think people have a hard time doing that because they feel obligated to their parents or their children or this or that. And I think you have to take care of yourself so you can be better for everyone else.
Yeah, it's the obligation and the guilt.
Yes.
The guilt that keeps you stuck in there and unable to kind of free yourself from that mentality for sure. So we're actually getting close to our time, but my last parting questions for you is, do you have any advice for women who are feeling stuck right now?
Oh, God. I mean, stuck in a relationship or just stuck in life or?
Why don't we do both?
Okay. Well, I mean, stuck in a relationship. I mean, if you don't think it's going to work, pack your crap up. That's what I say. I know it sounds so much easier. Nothing is worth sacrificing your happiness for. If you're married and you have children, don't stay just for the kids, because kids like to see their parents happy. Believe it or not, even though, I left and my kids were much older, my son, who was, younger when I had left, always says he's so happy that I was in a happy relationship. Kids like to see their parents happy. They're very intuitive. So I think it's very important to not sacrifice your own happiness. Life is very short. So I think that's very important. So if you're, whatever it is, if you're stuck in this relationship, if you love the person and you want to work it out, do everything possible, therapy and everything to work it out. If it's not working for you, make a plan to leave, because it's just, life is very short, and it's true. And, you have to be happy for yourself. You live for yourself first, and then everything else falls into place. So I think that's very, very important to say, because I think people do so much out of guilt, and it's useless, because everybody is going to be miserable around you if you're not happy.
Absolutely.
Yes, I really
agree.
Yeah, and I say that all the time, and people are like, "Oh, that's selfish." It's not selfish, because nobody's kids, believe me, want to see them unhappy. I have my adult friends who always say to me, "I wish my parents got divorced when I was younger." Now they're old and miserable, and then you're 75 and 77 or 80, and then people are getting divorced when they're 80, or they're old and crotchety and miserable, and it's absolutely insane.
Oh yes, it happens. It's amazing that it happens after 30, 40 years, but it does. And
yes,
they probably knew they should have left after a few years.
Yeah, so if you're stuck in a relationship like that, and if whatever you're stuck doing, it's one day at a time, to heal and get out of it, and just take care of yourself. And whether it's go to therapy, it's great now. Therapy, there's online resources that you don't even have to freaking leave your house, which I think is so amazing. That, people feel like they have to leave there. So you can just go online. There's so many great things that you can do to help and heal yourself. And it's really just one day at a time. And don't be hard on yourself. Just give yourself a break. Because I think we're all so hard on ourselves.
Especially in the healing process.
Yes.
We tend to be really hard on ourselves. Like, we're not healed fast enough.
Yeah.
It's not over yet. It is crazy.
Yeah, we had to give ourselves a chance to heal. It doesn't, we didn't get here overnight, so healing's not overnight.
Yeah. Sometimes it's longer than the relationship, but
exactly,
it needs to happen.
For sure.
Thank you so much, Marge.
Thank you for having me. This was so nice. It was great.
Well, that was our show with the Marge. I'm so honored that she took time out of her day to talk to us, and hopefully all of you learned a little something today about her experiences. Don't forget to check us out on social media at Our Sage Community, and we will see everybody next week. Bye. Well, that's our show. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, or if you're willing to share your story, please email us at sageadvicepodcast@gmail.com. Until next week, remember, when you're kind to yourself, the healing can begin. See you next time.
This show was brought to you by inflowradio.com, the best curated talk radio network for personal development, wellness, spirituality, and conscious business.
If you or someone you love is in immediate danger, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. For more information, please see the resources tab at sage.community.